testicle difficulties, which is what we used to call it at the shake joint when the DJ couldn't get it together. We have got it together here on our little computers. So thank you again. It's Caitlyn 7. It's Catelyn with Tyrion as a prisoner at the Vale. And we know from last week's chapter that Ned is also going to have to choose sides, and it's forefront on his mind that whatever decision he makes will directly affect Catelyn. So let's get right to it. LMR. Oh, I'm Jennifer Wolverton, Lady Wolverton. You can find me on Facebook. Everybody calls me Jen. I'm on Twitter, Jennifer Wolverton 1976. Yes, that belies my age. My birthday was Monday. And if you put a comment in the video, now I'm not saying it's because I'm better than other YouTubers about that. I'm saying it's because I still have a small enough channel to answer every question. So please do so. All righty, LMR.
Hi, everybody. I think we got it here. I think it's going to be okay now. Let's see. So we're doing the overview, like Jen said, of Catelyn 7. I'm sorry. Sorry. Catelyn 6. I keep making that mistake. There must be something about Catelyn 7 that I keep saying that. Let's wait and find out. But so far, we're going to do Catelyn 6 today. I thank you for having me. We have Misha. She's back for today.
Welcome
and then
back. Back. Misha's back.
Yeah, and then we have James from Dust on the Throne. So it's always a pleasure, and he's just he's been great through this throughout. I can't even talk right now. Maybe I'm having technical difficulties too. It's been a long day, so he's been so nice through all this, and I apologize for what's going on, but like we got it. Everything is working fine now. So let's get into Catelyn. But before we do that, if you want to introduce yourself, James. I mean, you don't have to. I just did, but maybe you want to say hello to everybody.
That's all right. Yeah. If there was a picture under courteous, patient in the dictionary, it would be James's picture there.
Oh, Lord. Listen, when you do this, guys, you understand. Stuff happens sometimes. Stuff you've done a million times before, you try to do it the exact same way, and something will mess up. And that's just the way it goes. And I'm willing to, wait as long as it takes, man. We'll get it figured out. But yeah, I have a little channel called Dust on the Throne, and you can also see me on Chris's channel, Smokescreen.
He's also modest, you guys. He has over 1,000 subs.
Yeah,
this is a little but proud channel. I have like 150 subs.
Creeping up on 2,000. I'm just a few away from 2,000 now. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Misha?
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Misha. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. I had to go out of town briefly. But I'm back now, and hopefully things can, get back on track.
Awesome.
If you wanna find me, check me out on Facebook under Misha Houston. Check me out on Instagram under Misha_Houston, and check me out on the Capcom Fighters Network. I'm a Street Fighter player now, and check me out on the Capcom Fighters Network under Misha 3700. Tonight we're going to be doing Catelyn, and LMR is going to take the lead on this. So whenever you're ready, LMR.
I'm always ready. But yeah, we'll see how bad this is, the way I do it. And actually, I apologize because I wasn't ready to do this. I just have my notes, so I'm kind of giving you a heads up that it will be. We'll see what it is. Okay, so Catelyn 6. This is when she is making her way towards what is it? The Vale, or if I'm getting the names wrong, please let me know. So this is a huge thing. It's not just hiking. It's dangerous. It takes days. And in the show, it wasn't shown like that. So in a book, we can see actually their the struggles that they go through. And along the way, when she's actually walking, or not even hiking, walking, struggling, she remembers and different things and kind of has a lot of internal dialogue with herself. So she goes through a lot of her memories, and kind of questions her actions, or kind of not even maybe questions her actions, but kind of she's thinking about what she has done and if this is a good idea or not. But it's kind of too late already, so they're already going. She meets, along the way, she encounters her family member, and other people, and each person kind of sparks a memory from the past. So we get a lot of insight into her past, into her family, kind of understanding where she's coming from. Then there's a lot of description of the actual road. A lot of the description that they give, you can only appreciate it, I think, when you read the book. You can actually appreciate the journey that she's on. In the show, it was basically like a sneeze and you're there. On the show, or on the book, I actually felt her pain, I could say. So, yeah. And later she meets, I forgot her name, or I have it here somewhere in my extensive notes, Maya, Stone. And then she again thinks about different things while encountering this person. So a lot of internal dialogue, not as much conversation, but internal thoughts, which are going to kind of play a role later on when, she becomes Lady Stoneheart, is it? Where she won't be a person. There's just going to be, like right now we see a lot of her internal dialogue, but later on we see nothing. We just see a face and there's no internal anything from her. So this is kind of like a lot of, I call it yelling from the inside, but she's quiet. Later on there's going to be a lot of action on the outside, but nothing from within her. And yeah, later it kind of ends at where she actually gets to her destination all the way up, at that tall mountain, or however it's called. I guess not even a mountain. It is called a mountain.
It's called the Giant's Land.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And it's like, I think they call it mountain that even mountains look up to, or something like this, and like 3.5 miles high. That is huge. And then she meets her sister, and I'm saying meets her sister because it's like as if she's seeing her for the first time. And then we see that interaction, and I'm not going to go into the detail right now because we can discuss it as we're discussing it today. But she basically meets her for the first time the way she is, kind of off and loopy because of what happened to her in King's Landing, and there are theories about that too. And then at the end, Little Robin, we meet Little Robin, and again this is a shock to Cat because of what the expectations are. So we see that it is not normal, at least in Cat's eyes, to whatever Robin is going through or how he is. And then that side of how blind Lysa is to that. So, and that's kind of when the chapter ends, where basically Robin wants to make somebody fly. That's what he's concentrating on. So it's a very long chapter. It's a lot of internal dialogue, a lot of description of the actual journey of how to get somewhere, which is also very nice. And actual description, that was one of the most difficult not difficult. You can feel the journey basically. So I made it like in 5 minutes maybe to kind of talk about it, but it's over an hour of listening, hour and maybe 30 minutes if you're audiobooking. So we can get into that. Who wants to start with their thoughts?
I wouldn't mind starting if it's okay. As you said before, and I totally agree with, this was a very harrowing journey. Just getting to the Vale was harrowing. They were harassed by the clansmen and people, you know, the wildlings of the Vale were harassing them day and night. They had been attacked like 2 or 3 times. So they really didn't have to even survive that journey. It was just a very, you know, horrible journey from beginning to end. And the ending point was just, what the fuck? I mean, that's kind of how I felt. You know, she's come all this way. She's fought the Hill clansmen. She's made it up this treacherous mountain. And when she finally gets there, it is nothing but this hideous, awkward, tenuous strain that she's coming into when she meets her sister, and we get an introduction to her, and I'm just like, whoa, I've read this before, but to read it all over again, it is just like, oh my God, what has Catelyn gotten herself into? What has she done? She, throughout all of this, she's starting to question herself.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's questioning herself. She's questioning this whole thing. It's starting to dawn on her, but she's not really acknowledging it just yet, fully and totally. She's starting to realize that this guy is not who you think he is. Yes, he's troublesome, and he's a drunkard, and he uses prostitutes, but he's not a murderer. During that battle, as I recall, Tyrion had never even killed a person before. It was his first time taking a human life. So he wouldn't know. So if a person that hasn't killed someone, wouldn't it occur to you that maybe that this person didn't kill your child? I mean, the first person he killed with a shield, not a sword. An experienced killer would not use a shield to kill someone. They would use poison or a dagger or a sword or a staff or something like that. But a shield, that in and of itself should have spoken to her and let her know that maybe this is not the person who attacked my son.
Yes, or even hired somebody. He was so uncomfortable doing that and inexperienced. It was obvious that he didn't even seem like the type of guy who was even willing to pay somebody to do that.
Right, exactly. It takes a lot to kill a person. It takes a lot of from what I've heard. I'm not taking a human life, but from what I've heard, it takes a lot out of you to kill a person. It takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally. I've heard that when a person kills someone, they're all out of breath and they're exhausted. It's just such a huge process for a person to do. And it should have dawned on her as she was killing this clansman with a shield, that this person's never taken a life before. He's never done that. And to stoop so far as to, try to kill a child. I mean, it's one thing to kill a person in self-defense, and it's another thing to kill a child sleeping in their bed. That's a big gap. That's a big gap. And it should have dawned on her how awkward he was when he was killing this clansman for the first time. Now, is there any other thoughts on that section of the story? Yeah.
Yeah, you said she was questioning herself, Misha. The book
James.
actually.
James, I'm sorry, James. Jennifer, we can't hear you, baby. Unmute your microphone.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, we can't hear you. There you are. Now speak.
Okay, yeah. There is a theory out there that I forgot what I was going to say, but I do know this, having a father that served in Vietnam.
Right.
When you're in war, you're not a killer because you kill somebody that you pledged to fight against, but all the same, it bothers you because you don't know them and you don't know their reasons for why they chose what they chose. For instance, General Lee, he was a West Point graduate. He did not own slaves, and he was not for owning slaves. However, his wife's family, I believe, was Southern, and most of his relatives were Southern. So he fought with them because you always stick with your family for the most part, unless you know, have issues with your family. So they took away his land to build Arlington Cemetery. Okay. Kind of as a punishment, because he was known to be a great tactician and just fighting person. And they kind of did that as punishment to him for not fighting for the Union.
Right.
So in war, sometimes there are no right sides, and you can't blame yourself when war is what kills somebody, whether it be an infection they get, or a mortal wound, or famine.
Yeah, both sides have good guys.
I mean,
You know,
anybody who's willing to die for what they believe in, whether or not you believe in it or not, and think it's utter nonsense, they deserve a certain modicum of respect for laying their life down for something that they believe that was important enough to them to die for.
That's
And
right.
that's what my dad always says about Vietnam. You know, yeah, they were enemies, but they had their reasons, just like he had his reasons. And you deserve a certain amount of respect just for holding up for your country.
So, on that note, James, you were saying, like, I was wondering about, because this is Game of Thrones. I mean, it's kind of war in itself, war for that throne. So, a question for you, James, like, what are your thoughts about? I mean, this is we're discussing Catelyn 6, so it's kind of, there's a lot of internal dialogue from that one woman. What, as a guy, what do you think about, like, her internal thoughts, like her process? I was just really curious about your thoughts on this chapter.
I honestly think she's starting to, like Misha said, she's starting to question herself. In the beginning, it was the mama bear reaction. Immediately, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get revenge. But like Misha said, okay, she has this man in custody. He's begging to be unchained or unhandcuffed so he can help them fight, because they need every man they can get, whether he's half a man or whatever. They needed him, and he promised, you can tie me back up, whatever you want to do after this is over, but let me help. So that all went down. Like Misha said, you could look and tell. You could see Bronn. He was there. He was ready to have a beer and a lady after he did it. And Tyrion is breathing heavy, like Misha said. So by the time they get to the Eyrie, the book says, Catelyn is questioning herself. She's saying, could I be wrong? Could he be innocent after all? And but then right away, because of the severity of Sir Roderick, she wanted to get him taken care of by a maester, so she had to push those thoughts aside for a minute. But they're recurring, because it says it wasn't the first time that she thought that. So what I believe is she made a knee-jerk reaction when they saw him at the inn at the crossroads, and now after this long journey, which, like you said when you were talking about the chapter in the beginning, the opening, it's a long ass journey. It's not like it was on the show. But where I hate to keep saying like Misha said, but I agree with her when she said, she's read it multiple times. Well, this time when I read it, I was thinking more along the lines of, man, this is where Robert and Ned grew up. When the first time I read it, I was more focused on how steep the climb was and all the things they were describing, and Blackfish getting introduced and all that. But you think about that, that's a hell of a place to grow up right there, man.
Exactly. That was one of my thoughts. I completely forgot about, like, what were they doing? How were they getting around? I mean, they grew up over there. What were they? Were they stuck over there? Up there? That is just beyond.
They talk about
I think
big fields and stuff. Go ahead, Misha. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's no problem. I think that they were up there, during the summer, you know, they would be up there for a few months and then they would come back down and then they would stay down there when winter came. So I think they were kind of up and down the mountain, up, you know, not up there too long, you know, because it's such a, the area is such a remote place. And I don't think that Ned would have wanted to be cloistered so high up above everything. He's such a grounded character. He's a man that is of the earth. So I think that he kind of wanted, you know, to stay close to the ground every few months. That's what I would do. Like in the, you know, when it's warm, you know, maybe they can stay up there for a few months, but when it gets cold and the multiple winters are coming in, I think they all came down, just like they did with Sansa and Feast of Crows. They stayed up there for a while, but when the winter came, they came on down to the Royce Castle down at the bottom of the mountain against the moon. I mean, I think that would be the most healthiest way to raise a child, not just have them cloistered up there on that mountain like Liza is doing to Sweet Robin.
It is interesting because for James, like, because again, taking a side of a guy, oh, that's my dog again. So like I can imagine myself having fun in those mountains. I mean, the summers for me were usually I lived in a city, but my grandma lived kind of like in a village, I guess, where those were the best summers of my life as a kid. And my parents, they don't know half of the stuff the little kids did when they were playing. So I can just imagine what those two boys, Ned and Robert, were doing and how much fun they had and how many times they basically, you know, got away with their life. What do you think about that as a guy? Like, I'm sure you would like, I mean, I'm assuming you would like it there. Climbing and danger. What do you think?
Okay, now, I'm not any kind of daredevil. I was never, you know, that kind of kid. I hung out with kids like that, but I was always the voice of reason, you know. But you're right.
And when I was the voice of reason, shit was real fucked up. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, you're saying by the time it got that bad for you to be the voice of reason, the situation had escalated.
Like not long ago, a friend of mine came over, and I was just like, "No, we can't do that." And she was like, "All right." And then the next day, her old man came to pick her up, and I said, "We almost went such and such." I said, "But I was the voice of reason," and said, "No, we don't need to go anywhere." And he said, "You're growing up, Jennifer. You know, because when you're the voice of reason, shit's really fucked up."
Well, yeah, but I imagine they were she said, probably down in the valleys. It's described as a huge place, a lot of land there, and that mountain, it says, is 3.5 miles high.
Exactly.
So you're talking about 18,000 feet up.
Yeah, I believe the North is the biggest kingdom out of all 7.
Man, so I imagine young boys, they didn't want to be cooped up there either. They wanted to be out there running and roughnecking and having a good time.
They also go into the summer fields, the wheat and the corn and the fields.
Yes.
That I'm assuming that Ned, you know, during the springtime when things were in bloom, they were down on the valley floor, you know, probably, you know, visiting other castles in the Vale and so on and so forth. They probably lived up there for a time, but they were probably up and down, you know, every few months or so. And I think that would be the most appropriate thing.
Yeah, also with that, like they were raised, he keeps saying they were raised in the North, like he's from the North. But technically kind of north, but not exactly north. Like, how north is that place? How much north? Is it still considered?
Well, let me put it this way.
I don't consider it the North.
You're from North Carolina, right?
Yes.
You consider yourself Southern.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. You're borderline. I mean, you ain't a Yankee, but on the same token, you ain't dirty South.
No.
Right. But we are Southern. You know, we are below the Mason.
Oh, you know this. Any state that drinks Coke as its main pop beverage, that's Southern.
Southern, yeah, that's right. That's
we eat grits, liver mush, and all that jazz. But yeah, I don't. Well, looking at the map, it doesn't feel like a north to me either. But
No, it's not.
you
the
know,
north.
that's what they say.
It's not the north. I
I
mean,
start to experience non-Southern things. What's after North Carolina?
North or south?
North.
Well, North Virginia.
Okay, after Virginia.
Yep, I agree. Totally agree.
What is that, Pennsylvania?
Maryland would be on top, and West Virginia.
Well, Maryland is a Coke state out of the very few that's thrown in there. They're a little bit different than any of the others. Renee of House Stark, y'all know her. She's a Maryland lady, and she loves her red beans and rice and her gumbo, and her Coke. But when we get to like Colorado, Pennsylvania, first of all, anywhere where every soft drink is a pop.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
When you come to the concession stand, pop, I go ahead and say, if you want Coke, say Coke. If you want something flavored, say the flavor. I don't know what pop is. To me, that's an adjective for a soft.
What about soda? Do you ever say soda?
Like
No.
you mean, and opposed to what?
People
No,
do.
like for me, let's say I drink Sprite. That's my thing. So
Yeah,
I
you used
call
to
it
think
soda.
soda, but everybody knows what I mean. In
We're-
my household. Out,
I know.
when I'm out, I specify.
Ah.
okay,
We call it. We just call it drinks here. We just say
Well,
drinks.
y'all have Cheerwine, RC.
Yep. All
Sun
those
Rock.
any soft drink is just called a drink.
Y'all
So if you
have
go
some weird drinks nobody else has.
Yes, we do, and I love it.
Could get into that Cheerwine, y'all. This is kind of like Pepsi Cola, but it tastes more like cherry cough syrup and cola.
Oh God, no.
That's what I'm drinking right now.
Oh, are you for real? Is it different than Dr. Pepper?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
It's different
Oh.
than cherry Coke or cherry Pepsi.
right. It's some kind of weird in between of those.
Huh.
Almost like flat.
Anybody ever tried Squirt?
I love Squirt.
Yes, yes, I like
Grapefruit soda.
That's
You can get the Warritos grapefruit is very similar to Squirt.
Mm.
James, if you can, please bring me a cherry sundrop.
Done. No problem.
Thank you. And if you want anything from Louisiana or Mississippi, let me know.
And speaking of those sun drops, I found them at my local store.
But
and
not cherry.
Not cherry. No, I'm allergic to cherry. Boo. Boo to my allergy, not to the cherry. I love
like
cherries.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Yeah, but I forgot. I didn't realize that it has caffeine, and I hate caffeine. I don't do well with it. So instead of that, I basically...
Caffeine. You mean caffeine?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I'm thinking coffee all the time. When I'm thinking caffeine, I'm thinking coffee. So I called caffeine because I'm like, oh God.
Right.
Yeah, I miss coffee.
I love the way you talk.
Sorry?
I love the way you talk. Like
Oh.
Carl.
Yeah, me too. I don't even know what your accent is. I like it too.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. My kids keep asking me if they have an accent. I said, no, baby, just mommy is very special. Yeah. So,
Right. And my parents don't know where I got this deep Southern accent. Theirs isn't really as bad as mine.
Oh, gosh.
Just being around different people and whatnot.
Let's
Well,
see.
if we to get back to this real quick, I was just going to say also, right there when they get there to the gates and everything, you get a good introduction to Blackfish.
Yeah.
And
At the
he
gates of the moon.
he seems so cool to me. And
I love Blackfish.
yes,
I got bullied in a chat for loving Blackfish. But look,
really,
he's my horse. I'd pick him to be my horse. He's loyal, and he's like, you know what? This is where I was born. This is where I'm going to die. F it. And I understand why he didn't want to help his family anymore, because all the people who were closest to him were dead. But still, I respected him, and I heard somebody make fun of him. I'm not going to say who. A YouTuber was making fun of me because I said I love Blackfish. I love Blackfish, and they said they were calling me Black Fist.
Well,
Hey,
yeah.
I forgot this, guys. I'm sorry. This is the first thing I meant to say because it's on page 1 of the chapter. Misha, you missed this last week, but last week when we talked about it, you might have seen it. We were talking about shadows. Remember shadow of a shadow? Did you notice, Elamar, on the first page it says
Not
talking
Shadow
about
Lannisters.
talking about that's on page 2, yeah, but she's talking about Lysa. She wants all our swords kept close to home to defend the veil. Against what? No one is certain.
Against what?
Shadows.
Shadows some say.
Yeah, and then the next page it says not shadows, Lannisters. So
yeah,
I just wanted to touch on that because you brought that up last week, and then boom, this chapter, bam, bam, right in the first 2 pages.
And I believe Storm, that when Ygritte and Snow are ranging together, she cries and says that Mance opened 100 graves in the search of the horn of Joramun and let out 100 shades. And so to me, that's got to say that there are spirits that are, for whatever, however they're buried, are, trapped. I think that's why there's the swords on the laps of the Starks.
It is. That's what they say. Yep.
And I mentioned it in our last one. I don't know if it was on Sunday. I'm still wondering if there are actual ghosts over there. I don't remember ever hearing about it. They keep talking about shadows, and maybe not in that sense. But I wonder if they ever talk about
the
after death.
Shades, and then shades we talked about being the dead. So then I think that is non-reanimated dead that are just spiritual. Now, Misha, you have had something to say, I know, one time about the shades that were let out in the search for Joramun's horn. And do you believe there are ghosts in a world of ice and fire?
That's a broad question, because I don't know if I can quite agree. In order for there to be shades, there has to be gods, and all of the religions seem so at odds with each other. So if there are gods, which god exists? Does the seven exist? Does the storm god, the sky god, the black goat of R'hllor? And I can't really give an answer to that, even though I wish that I could be more sure of it. But there is certainly magic here. Magic certainly exists in this world. It is very strong and very prevalent. And
things only have
mysticism.
Go ahead, Misha.
Yeah, there is an aura of mysticism around Westeros and all of the other countries and continents. But as far as the shade, I think I would have to disagree with that. But I do believe that there is magic, there is mysticism going on, the religions are prevalent. But as far as the dead, and even the dead rises, of course, but I don't know about ghosts. I don't know about ghosts and shades. Okay. But I do believe that there are shadows and there is magic. And
it says, I believe in feast, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it just depends.
Ygritte is telling Jon that they must have entered into 6 burial ice caves and let out 6 shades looking for the horn of Joramun. And I do believe in ghosts and shades, and I believe in gods. Now, Marie Hill doesn't believe in gods. I believe that anything you give faith to, that it exists because
And
you
now
giving
that
faith to it, therefore makes it exist.
now that I think about it, I think that there may be ghosts because of the last chapter in this book. You know, I don't want to give too much away, but it's the Daenerys chapter, and she's letting, you know, she's saying goodbye to Khal Drogo. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for anyone, but she's saying goodbye to Khal Drogo. She walks into the flames, and what does she see? She sees her husband Khal Drogo on his fiery horse, and she sees foxes and shapes of animals, and while she's in the flames she sees all of this beauty, and she sees her husband Khal Drogo, and she's telling him to go on, my love, go on and fly, go
To
to
the
the Nightlands
afterlife
where
or
you
some,
belong.
yeah, like an
Right. They
afterlife.
must
Or
really
something.
believe in an afterlife.
Yeah, there must be something. There has to
And
be
then to
something
believe in
that can do
afterlife,
all
you
of
kind of
that.
have to believe in
Yeah.
uh, in God. But I will tell you this: I believe in karma a lot too. Like I think the many-faced God has a lot to do with karma.
The many
Yeah.
face. Oh, well, I mean, he's certainly dealing out justice where they see fit. You know, Arya is certainly doing it, and all of the other members of that guild and of the Assassins Guild and so on and so forth. They're certainly
Speaking of, have
getting
any
out.
of you guys noticed how Thoros will sometimes act for money, whereas the kindly man she had at the House of Black and White and Jockin don't act like that? You know, and I know a person that performs witchcraft or psychic readings or residual energy or anything like that, if you take money, it's wrong. It's a bad thing. It's something you do to help somebody, and you're never supposed to take money.
Hmm. Yeah.
That certainly could be true.
Yeah.
Well,
And
let's
go.
go on
Yeah.
back after if you can.
Yep. So for her, for Kat, I noticed that again. There's a lot of talk about her heart being turned to stone, and again, that's foreshadowing what's gonna happen to her later, and then about her taking the life, or maybe not her, but her actions, her decision caused, I think it says 6 men to die, and
Mm-hmm.
then that she was not even able to weep for them and that their names were fading. So again, kind of
Yes.
foreshadowing her forgetting who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, later on, there is a quote that says, "Looked." In the quote, it says, "Looked at her as if he didn't remember who she was." So, like, as if somebody's not even recognizing her already. Obviously, they know who she is, but again, foreshadowing.
Yeah, she said that her heart was turning to stone in the chapter. And that's a very good foreshadowing of what's to come later on.
And we also get that Barrett can barely remember what his fiance looks like in the books.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire situation. Oh, excuse me, LMR.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, this entire situation is chipping away at her self-esteem and her identity until she doesn't even know who she is by the time of her death. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how could it not? This
I
situation
would
is
hate
going to
that.
change everyone. I mean, no
Yeah.
one is going to be as they once was. No
You
one.
guys, I had both my grandmothers died of Alzheimer's. One not as bad as the other just recently, but the other one was so bad that I remember one time and I broke down. I'm just that type of person. I'll cry. And there's no shame in that. But she kept saying, "You sure are a pretty girl." I was about 20. And I kept going, "I'm Jennifer, your oldest granddaughter." And she just was not ever going to comprehend that, which made me even more upset. Which, if you've studied occupational therapy, you're not supposed to do. You're just supposed to go along with what they think. But I just couldn't. It was my first time to see her, and I was warned, but it's one of those things when you're prepared and you just can't, you just don't do what you were told. And I would never want to end my days not even knowing who I am or what my favorite drink was or anything like that. She was a teacher at one time too. And I mean, really, she thought my father was so young that there's no way that I was his daughter because he wasn't old enough to have children yet. And then later in the day, she asked him to get from under the bed.
Yeah, it is difficult seeing people that you love go through the loss of who they are. And there's anger with that too. People who are looking at people like that because they're angry. Like we can be angry at what, not at the person who's forgetting, but
or the person
at the idea.
It's very angry.
Yeah, but like for example,
those things.
Yeah,
but I could not play it cool and not cry. I just couldn't, and I was told beforehand not to, but I just couldn't, and I kept going. I'm Pete's daughter. I'm your oldest granddaughter, Jennifer, because I used to spend summers with her, and I really felt like I was the closest to her out of the grandchildren. Anything I can cook nowadays, it's because of her. My love of animals is from her. Being able to grow plants is from her. And I broke. That was probably the first serious mental breakdown I've ever had. Now, my other grandmother, she did have some memory loss and was sick, but she really just was always a hypochondriac and loved the attention. My uncle killed himself, and she used to say, Uncle Warren's dead, just to see if we'd say yes or not. I mean, she was a lot sharper than she let on that one. And the funny thing is, the grandmother that was so sick never drank, was open at church every day. The door was open, etc. And the one that was not so bad off drank Crown beer, smoked cigarettes her whole life, barely ever worked. I mean, it's just crazy the way things work out, but I'll never forget that. That's one of the worst experiences I've ever had, except for putting a dog to sleep.
Yeah, I've been there. My great-grandmother went through it and didn't know me at the end.
I remember my great-grandmother as well.
It is just, it's obviously it's hard for the person who goes through it, but to kind of see your loved one lose themselves, there's a lot of anger at life, right? A lot of anger at why, right?
My step-grandfather lived with my grandmother that couldn't remember anything, the one I was closest to. So for him to live there for 5 years and she doesn't even remember him, but to take care of, I mean, that's a special kind of love.
Right. It is.
I mean, and that broke my heart too, to be out there on Front Street trying to get her to, because I wanted her so badly to remember me. And then to see the look on his face, because he knew who I was. It was just awful.
See, like everybody has their experiences that they wish they didn't have. And normally people say, I usually say, I embrace whatever I go through because I just learned from it. But some lessons are things that I would like to unsign up from or quit the class, not go through it. Yeah. So I know I'm kind of changing the topic.
Remembering how to wipe your butt.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of going with the little children, it's like going back to be a child, but it's depressing because when a child is growing up, you're teaching them, and that one day they will be able to tie their shoes, they will be able to say mama, dada. But when it goes the other way, taking care of an older person like a child, it's not the same thing. It may be the same functions, but the idea that they're digressing or not even just going back, that is horrible. That there is no way out of it.
That's
to
right.
lose a person.
But my one grandmother, the one in Baton Rouge, she was always a hypochondriac because she liked attention from doctors. And then I could see her sometimes kind of work it to her advantage. You know what I mean? But I swear to you guys, I want my parents to live with me. And I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. I know I'm going to change the topic, but we're kind of actually some of the things that people are experiencing, actually a lot of the things are in the book that he writes, that George writes. And it's amazing how... Exactly. I wonder how... Yeah, what are your thoughts about it, James? Like, because it is a lot of stuff from life. Like, Kat is losing herself, seeing kind of her actions. What do you think about that? If you can talk about that for a minute.
It does.
He has PTSD.
It does make me wonder what he's experienced in his life to be able to write about it so well and weave it into these characters. I used to think that Stephen King. It's like what has he experienced in life to be able to write these characters so well?
His books scare me.
Things. Yeah, and so just getting into George R.R. Martin's style of writing, he's such a brilliant writer, and this is just something you don't make up. Some of these things he's writing, he has had experience.
You can't believe that tied together so perfectly. Yeah. He said he was a big fan of William Faulkner.
I didn't know that.
Who was a Mississippi writer whose famous quote was, "I like to write about the human heart in conflict with itself." And I see that all over Jamie. He knows what's right and he wants to do right, but on the same token, he loves his family and is in love with his sister.
Yeah, he is.
So
he sure is.
I kind of can't wait to get to those Jamie chapters. In Peaceful Crow. They're a long way away, but I really enjoy Jamie's chapters. I always did. There's a lot going on there, more than
I do too.
What's going on the surface.
What's the first movie y'all saw Nikolai Coster-Waldau in?
Some comedy. There was a comedy where he was being injected with some stuff to make him experience. I forgot the name, but I did not like. I mean, it was odd.
Attractive to women.
Something about that. It was odd. Maybe there were three wives, or I guess.
Oh no, he was cheating on his wife Leslie Mann with Carmen Diaz and
something like that. Yeah. It was odd seeing him in that. So,
guys, I saw him in Wimbledon with Paul Bettany and Kristen. From the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Anne Rice movie. She was a young girl. Kristen.
Oh, God dang it. Kirsten Dunst.
Yes.
Yeah.
He played James Bettany's hitting partner. And that's the first thing I ever saw him in.
You're saying he was in an Interview with a Vampire?
No, he was in a movie called Wimbledon.
Oh. When you said Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and Kirsten Dunst, I was thinking of Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, that one.
He and her have the same birthday, Kirsten Dunst. It was April 30th.
Oh, you said Kirsten Dunst. I thought you said.
Well, that was his love interest. She was also a tennis player.
That's interesting.
And I love Paul Bettany because I love Master and Commander.
Master and Commander. Yes, that's good. That's Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was good.
What about Cersei? What was the movie y'all first saw her in?
300.
300. She had black hair, really hot.
She had black
hair. I saw her in a made-for-TV movie called Mrs. Dalloway.
Do you prefer her in dark hair or blonde hair? I couldn't decide.
I like you kind of brown because darker hair, I think, makes women look a little bit older.
But she looked like sharper, a little bit like she knew what she was doing. I don't know.
She looks like 46. She looks like she went through one of those golf stages.
But it
That's what
did.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, it did. I mean, her color of her hair and her eyebrows looked really nice with the dark hair too. So it did. Yeah, it looked good.
I'm trying to think of who I saw somebody in that was like a really good actor. Oh yeah, Craster is Mr. Hogg in Master and Commander.
I didn't know. I don't remember watching that movie. Wow.
You have got to watch that movie. It's a 2000 movie based on Post Captain, the book about. Of course, I love Lord Horatio Nelson.
Yeah.
So,
You remember last week when I was saying I had to leave right there at the end to go see that movie, The Avengers?
Yeah.
Have any of you guys seen that movie yet?
I haven't.
I have.
You have?
I have. Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
Right. That's right. You said that. You said, what about Tyrion in that movie? I was blown away.
Oh,
I was not expecting him to be in there, man.
The Station Agent. Have you guys seen him in The Station Agent with Bobby Cannavale?
No.
No.
And Patricia Clarkson?
No.
And Michelle Williams?
Nope.
That's a good movie. Or Badassdom, where he's in a video game or something, or he goes to a Renaissance fair and he's one of the people. But I never saw Lysa Arryn in anything except for this made-for-TV movie called The Pillars of the Earth.
Oh, I heard that was really cool. My husband watched it. He said it was awesome.
Who wrote that? Was that James Joyce?
Not sure.
Lord, if I know. You get to calling names, I'm lost.
But it's crazy all the like Cersei, the first movie I saw her was just a little TV movie. But she really is a good actress. She really is.
And speaking of actors, since I have one actor that I was freaked out to see, Tywin Lannister. Drum roll. I don't know how to do that drum roll. Anybody?
I saw him in the Birdcage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw the man who plays Tywin Lannister in the Birdcage. That was very
in the Birdcage.
Birdcage.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in a long time. I like that movie.
No, he is awesome in Nicholas Nickleby.
Never heard of that.
Guy from Sons of Anarchy.
What about? Do you remember him in Alien?
No.
Yep. I'm telling you, I was rewatching Alien series a while ago.
I remember Stannis Baratheon in Patriot Games. And he's the dick who doesn't want to help Brad Pitt.
No.
And Robert Redford.
I don't remember him. Oh my
God. Is his name. Y'all watch that just for him. He plays.
Isn't it just odd? Like.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Like when you go back and see the stuff that you saw before and you kind of see a familiar face, like, oh my God, that is the so-and-so. That's how I felt watching, like when I was watching Alien, whichever one it was, when she lands in that prison planet or prison, whatever place. And then I saw Tywin and then I realized, people have lives outside Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys see, there is this show called, it's, oh shit, it's a crazy, crazy, crazy show. Oh gosh, now it's done slipped my mind. It has. Oh yeah, but Piper Piabro and supposedly Lena Headey are really good friends. She was in that weird bar movie where they dance on the bar.
Striptease.
Coyote Ugly.
Yes, Coyote Ugly. That's got to be.
Oh, she's in a movie called Zipper with the guy I really like, and it's basically about he's running for Congress and he can't keep his dick in his pants, and she's his wife. Patrick something. I think Anna Faris's husband at one time, but a lot of them are in a lot of movies. I absolutely hated the casting for Dario The first one,
Yeah,
Who
me
was
too.
that? Oh.
when he said that line, my sword is yours, my such, my life is yours. He got me. He got me on that, and then I could never warm up to the other one.
Yeah, some powerful words.
And I like Catelyn Stark. They said they were going to get Jennifer Ellie at one time. And I really love Jennifer Ellie because she was in the A&E version of Pride and Prejudice. And then The King's Speech and a few other shows. I can't imagine her being Catelyn Stark. She's, I don't know, not rough enough, I guess.
Mm. And speaking of Catelyn, again, opinion from a guy, like James, what do you think? Because there's a lot of debate on her being a good mother, bad mother, things like that. I obviously have, like always, my own opinions, but I was wondering from Guy's perspective, what are your thoughts on Catelyn, maybe as a mother or a stepmother, as, character?
I see qualities in her as far as being a good mom, but the way she is about John, it's like she took 2 steps forward, 1 step back with me.
No empathy, whatever.
Yeah, none.
Here he is with nobody.
Nobody, and
whether they be a peasant or nobody, and she constantly throws it in his face due to the fact that she thinks he's Ned's.
Yeah,
and
she's
the kids can't help it.
And that's just very selfish. Like my children always be better than you.
Yeah, she's transferring all of her anger on John and not really putting it where it belongs with Ned with the so-called affair that he was having.
Right. And we know those parents who, no matter what, their children can do no wrong. My mom never felt that way. In fact, my parents' moms would take up for me and she'd say, "Oh no, I'm sure Jennifer is a ringleader right along. Don't underestimate her," and never take up for me like that. Caitlyn, she would take up for her kids till the very end.
Like when I was like 19, I robbed a bank and shot the security guard on the way out the door. My mom stood by me, and I never understood that. I thought she would, she should have let me go to prison, and no, she stood right beside me.
Oh wow!
No, I'm kidding. I never did that. I would never.
No, I was waiting for the gotcha.
I was trying to mix it up a little bit and bring.
I just couldn't believe you were going to share that on YouTube. People have told me I share a little too much.
No, but my mom would. My mom would have. I'm telling you. I know I could have committed cold-blooded murder, and my mom would have stood right by my side.
My mom will send me commissary, but she's not coming up to visit.
Because I know how I am. If my kids did something horrible, I love them. I'll visit them in prison, but throw the book at them. That's the way I am. I raised them better than that. If they did something, some moms do that to a flaw, especially with teachers. They'll go to a school and cuss a teacher out when the teacher's clearly in the right and their child is clearly a brat. I don't get it. But everybody, you get one shot at raising your kid, and everybody does it different.
Exactly.
3 times I've been in jail. My parent, and the prison is a whole nother thing, y'all, okay? My parents will send me money on my books. I can get snacks because you're always hungry.
Yeah,
or bring me a little TV or what have you. But they will not bail me out. They will not hire me a lawyer. And they will not come visit. That's just their rules. Don't even ask. Don't even ask.
And see, I understand Lysa has lost kids in the past, so she's latching on the Robin, and she's doing it a little too much. And I can't wait to see how he does grow up and what his story turns out to be. But right now, as far as this chapter, starting here and what I know of him, I hate his guts. I can't stand.
He might turn into Alexander the Great, where he took care of his mother, but really he stayed as far away from her as possible.
Well, yeah. I just think she really is spoiling him and causing him to be weak. And when Littlefinger thinks you're weak, you know, as a kid, you are. You know?
Or who else in history killed their mother?
I'm not sure.
I can think of somebody. Definitely, what is that? The Oedipus syndrome? Where you
Oedipus, yeah.
Oedipus, yeah. But also, there was a mother who killed her daughter because she felt she was going to be more prettier than her.
I think Norman Bates got his mom, didn't he?
Well, let's just go on back with the chapter.
Okay. We way out there.
We even went too
People
far.
actually like it a little bit though too.
Way out there.
What's next in the chapter?
So there's a mention of numbers, and I wanted to get your opinion, Misha, because I think you were talking about I forgot who, talking about the numbers. There's a number 7 about the 7 towers, and that number keeps popping up. Have you noticed, guys? Have you noticed any other numbers in this chapter? I don't remember. I just had 1 7.
Except Baylor in their 7 gods.
Yeah, and like the towers, I think. And then
I do remember the 7 towers.
Yeah. And then it's odd because like Elisa's children, right? She had 2 stillborn, 4 miscarriages, and 1 child living. That's 7 children there as well, right? 4, 5, 6, 7.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Good call, dude. Good call.
Yeah, so he's the 7th. Like, what's the name? Like 7th son of the 7th son or something like that. There is something about it. Being the 7th child is special. Being a son, 7th son of a 7th son.
7th son.
Yeah. But he's not. Robin is basically number 7, technically. So that was interesting.
Some people say it's a lucky number.
Yeah. And then there's talk about courage, strength, but no kindness when talking about Bran, and a little bit of loyalty. So that may play in later. I mean, he's courageous. He has strength, but he's not kind. And he is not loyal. The only loyalty we see
is to himself.
To whoever pays him more. Yeah.
Who, Bran?
Bran. Did I say Bran? I'm sorry, Bran. I wrote down Bran and I read Bran. I meant Bran. Yes. And if any of you have if you have notes, because I took notes on it, James, if you took notes, please chime in, and we can just kind of wrap up, not maybe wrap up the chapter, but there's still. Go ahead, please.
Bron might be a secret agent. I'm sorry, James. I think Bron might be a secret agent.
Well,
who knows? Yeah. That sounds good.
I think it's really up in the air. A lot of people are wondering about Bron, but I like the part where Bron says, "I'll come as well," and Catelyn is, thinking he was a fierce fighter as she had ever seen, and then she didn't like him, but she said because he had no loyalty or little loyalty, but she would prefer to separate him from Tyrion because she noticed on the way there they talked and chatted and laughed a lot, and so that definitely sets up what happens here with Bronn fighting, being his champion. That's the friendship.
She didn't want him to have any kind of misplaced loyalty to him because they had garnered a friendship.
I think their friendship actually truly began before the trial by combat. I think they made friends on the road there.
I think Bronn knew that he was being falsely accused. and that he would
Yeah.
actually advance himself further in his service rather than in Catelyn Stark's.
Well,
And I believe, like Misha said, that he noticed it just like Catelyn did, the way Tyrion was after killing somebody. And so he started thinking, this guy didn't do this. You know, I'm helping, but I'm going to end up helping him out.
well,
So
I mean, I can certainly agree with what I said, and but I also believe that he looked at the Lannisters and looked at the Starks, and he decided to go with the richer family. I mean, I think he had
yeah, it's no
a healthy
contest.
enough fear, a healthy enough fear of what was really going on, who had the most power, and I think he decided to go with the Lannisters, and apparently he made himself the right decision at the time.
And he
Dang, if
also is a Lannister.
He's a Lannister, yeah. I mean, he
I
wanted
mean,
to
I'm
give us.
sorry, you just can't come back from that. If I'm born a Wolverton with wolves as my sigil and I go against them, even if they lose, but I somehow am alive and they put me over them, I'll just be their puppet, or none of the people who didn't turn their cloak will ever truly trust me and they'll talk behind my back.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's something to be said for being loyal. Even if that's all you have in this world. I'd rather be loyal where everybody in the world, if you say my name, what you know about Jennifer, she is a very loyal, friendly person rather than she is a generous, rich person.
Yeah. So speaking of different, like people, how they are and how they change, and the changes that happen, I took a note about Lysa and how she was different when she came back from King's Landing, that she was not the same girl who left the South. So I was wondering about that in the past too, where she was there for a long time, right? For a while. And I just don't see her being in King's Landing with her son, with Robin. I mean, people would notice her crazy right away unless they and how did that boy survive Joffrey and all that stuff? That kind of always
she probably
puzzled
kept
me.
him away from him, and
Maybe
she
locked
probably
up.
also hung out with the lesser hanger-ons at the court. I'm sure
Maybe.
Cersei never invited her to the large,
Yeah,
banquet table unless she got to sit by John Aaron.
Yeah, I can really see her, separating herself from the people of King's Landing. We all know how those people are, and she probably wouldn't want to be around
And
them.
she didn't try. Yeah, exactly. She didn't even try. Her sister barely tried. So we know Lysa, being in her mindset, she never even tried to fit in.
Yeah, of course. She was on the outside, which made her relationship with Peter Baelish, as we
And
all know.
Tully and
Exactly.
Aaron's and Starks were brought up to believe that they were inherently better than Lannisters, Baratheons, and Cleganes, even if it wasn't written. Y'all know anybody who they might be richer than you, but you know that you are classier or a better person than them, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
Come on, y'all do. Y'all do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. A lot of slime
I mean,
balls.
James, shoot, you a carny. You was in the carny business. I know you know
That's
somebody
right.
that there's no doubt you know you are better than them because you know how to act.
Right, and treat people.
There's freedom of speech, but on the same token, you just don't yell out anything you want rude in the middle of Dollar Tree just because you're not getting your dollar item fast enough. There's actions, and then there's courteous actions, and then there's just downright being uncouth.
There's a saying.
Now,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, with Littlefinger and Lysa, I think their relationship started as children, as young children, when he was a ward, of House Tully, and He was in love with Catelyn for sure. But you know how there's sibling rivalry in every family. I'm sure Lysa
and she was the oldest daughter.
Wished that Peter would have had an eye on her, or was just jealous because he didn't. And then she marries this man much older than her. They got married on the same day as Catelyn and Ned. So they've only been married 15 years. In the 15 years, they lost a lot of kids. She was probably lonely. He was so dealing with the politics and everything. She was probably lonely. And Baelish swooped in and picked up on the stuff that he had planted. He harvested what he planted when she was young, I believe.
He certainly did. And as far as Lysa goes, I mean, she loved Lord Baelish, but under different circumstances, maybe if he had acquitted himself better and not started shit with the oldest daughter's fiance, who was, that would have been like somebody starting a fight with Marjorie Tyrell after Renly and her were already engaged, or her and Joffrey. She would have almost had to humiliate them to save face. And Sansa was actually, Lysa was actually pretty nice about it, but he wasn't as important. But it's not just that, it's the way that they cast him off after that. When it's known that children who are raised together fall in love like that. But, Caitlyn, being the older daughter and more beautiful, was expected to make a grand match. And she did her duty. And even Lysa is not described as being unattractive. The lesser son of a lord with nothing would have not been the type of match that a paramount lord would have had in mind for his attractive daughter, who was also of a good breeding. You know what I mean? It'd have been different if she had been a bastard or been the second daughter to a second wife who, was somebody not of that noble blood. But, not only did he almost get killed doing that, but they keep that hushed as much as they could without Brandon and other people bragging about it. And just the fact that it happened, it was probably a big scandal. And also, he probably got in trouble when he got home for starting any kind of trouble between Caitlyn and Brandon and the Tullys, because he was taken on as their, what do they call it? When they foster someone.
Foster child. Yeah.
Because that was a much higher foster family than he would have normally gotten. You see what I'm saying? Which would have been a great honor. So what I'm saying is that he ruined that big time, and probably lived in shame while he was getting, he said he was cut from stern to, sternum? He probably barely survived. And he probably laid for years in bed thinking about what he could do. Now, Lysa, on the other hand, really actually loved his ass.
Well, let me say this, Jennifer. This is where I got to disagree with you. I don't think that her love was healthy at all. She raped him. Now, she took his virginity while he was drunk. And I don't think anybody, man or woman, that would do that. She's a rapist. She took advantage.
Definitely.
Of him. So I don't think that she loved him at all. She wanted him.
But that's what she believes is love.
But she is, in my mind, in my opinion, she's nothing but a rapist. And I don't give her any benefit of the doubt, whether it be man or woman who does something like that. So
she's just like one of these chicks who never has sex for years and years, and one of her claims is that she's a virgin and she's 20 years old. Well, then somebody ends up sleeping with you. You can't go back and say, but you were the first person I ever slept with. I was a virgin, when you know that shit was just a one-night stand. And she tried to use that over him. And is Lysa's actually extremely manipulative, even without Peter's influence, and then she gets worse.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely true. As far as Peter Baelish goes, I do believe that they were having some sort of an affair in King's Landing. I do believe that
Absolutely.
he was even. I think he was using his own masculine wiles, because men can do this too. Men can use their masculine wiles to subdue a woman, and that is what he was doing, because he knew how deeply or supposedly in love with him that she was. But I don't. I have no sympathy for Liza. This chapter, reading it over again just reminded me all over again how horrible she was, and how manipulative she was, and how she was manipulating that entire conversation with Catelyn. I mean, the whole thing with Sweet Robin coming into the room, her pulling her breast out and feeding, breastfeeding the boy.
Yeah, she's throwed off.
Oh yeah, she's crazy.
The only sympathy I have for her is that she's been thrown off for a long time.
And I do have a bit of sympathy, in pieces, because her life was not chosen for her. She didn't get to choose the man that she wanted. She had to sleep with an old man. And for that reason, I will give her that. But before then, she was already, in that mess with Peter and Catelyn.
But look, there's another side to her. She's also not the type person who'd be willing to run off and not be rich or in good standing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. She's not so in love with him that she'd give up everything she had to be lowborn or live lowborn.
There are, if that's okay, there are a couple comments I wanted to, because we didn't get a chance to look at the chat in a while. But
my bad, y'all.
That's okay. I have a couple comments over here. I wanted to bring them up. Mackenzie Burns, they're a couple. If I could just kind of put them together, since we're talking about Liza, and I'm obviously, well, I'm not for her. I don't like the woman. I really don't like her. But kind of like speaking behind the scenes of what made her kind of go loopy and crazy and all that. Mackenzie says, I'm gonna just kind of summarize it, that the psychological change could be due to the fact that she wasn't able to marry Littlefinger. I mean, if you love somebody, right, and if you have your eyes set on them and they turn out to not want you, and then you're forced to marry somebody else, that is horrible. And then continuing, she had still Mackenzie Burns says, and then Kat is, and this, I think Misha, you mentioned it, but she has it here too, where Kat was able to marry this young hero, right? Because he is a hero, or he's gonna be a hero going off to the war, whereas Liza is stuck marrying this old dude, right? And then later on, she says, and then the pregnancies, the miscarriages, that messes people up. So Mackenzie Burns, thank you for the comments. That's
Elma, she probably had depression, postpartum, or otherwise every single miscarriage.
Yeah. And then a question for James. I'm not sure where I heard it. I'm thinking it might have been on one of the streams you were on, maybe with Chris, or the one that you did. But while I was thinking about Liza, I thought about, what about Maesters spiking her, whatever, like kind of making her crazy, because she wasn't like that. Were you talking about that? Or I know I heard it somewhere.
I don't remember being in one of those conversations, but I don't put it past, something like that happening.
I don't believe that. I believe they do
how totally different.
Robin medicated.
Now, is she that different when she returns? She's now a widow.
Oh yeah.
I mean that would change you, even if you love the man and didn't murder him. It would change you.
True.
But now when she comes back, it's like her plan is unfolding perfectly. So she's gonna be a little different now.
Okay.
Yeah,
but
I think she enjoyed his power and position, but I don't think that she loved him at all.
Right.
No.
When he died,
He was the warden of the East, and she had a chance to
felt
be
free.
his wife. You know, live this life, amazing life.
She's not anything like Cersei, but on the same token, I think she also embraced being the Lady of the Vale and in charge of everything for once, when she was just a quiet, demure wife, looked at as a failure in the bedroom for the most part, one sickly child, because that was a woman's greatest job.
The only achievement job, basically, pop those babies out and
exactly. And everybody's always talking. It's the worst kept secret. Well, hell, it's an open secret in the Vale. And John Aaron's probably not going to make it to be the Lord of the Vale.
There's an interesting. Go ahead. I think I interrupted you, James, or somebody.
I was just going to say. He said he said the seed is strong.
Yeah.
And so, her not realizing that, I think he's talking about Robert there.
Yeah.
If she thinks he's talking about his seed strong, then that means her eggs are weak.
Yeah.
And that probably, made her feel like, well, screw this old bastard.
I would say John Aaron was sterile, but we know that he had 3 sons, and when he was younger, that all were killed.
I have a question of, speaking of the babies and the seeds. She's had so many miscarriages. Yes, she has a still living child. She has a living child. But as we hear and read about John Aaron later on, especially in the Feast for Crows, we notice that he doesn't look anything like, Sweet Robin doesn't look anything like his father.
Right.
Now, could it be, now this is a well-known theory that's been floating around, and I think it's true, especially after reading this chapter.
Littlefinger.
Is Littlefinger the father of Robin? I think that he is.
Totally.
That could be true.
Yeah.
But
I heard theories on that.
Bloodraven. Bloodraven doesn't really look like any of the Targaryens of his generation, yet he was a Targaryen. So there's also a theory out there that Robin has the gifts. He was a Went on his mother's side, his great-grandmother, Blackwood, and Stark marriages in House Aaron as well. I mean, shit, he's cousins to Sansa and them. Of course, that comes from the Wents and the Lofstons and everything else. So it might not look like John Aaron or Lysa due to the fact that he's an anomaly, kind of like Bloodraven.
And also seeing as if they were truly having an affair with each other, she may have gotten pregnant with Robin right there in King's Landing.
I think Littlefinger knew enough to know that Lysa could only be trusted so far.
Yeah. And
there's another comment. Sorry.
They go, they use hair color in this story to try to figure out.
I mean, but even Jaime was careful enough to not treat his children as his children.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's still, everyone still knew about it. Even Illyrio Mopatis knew that those kids were not Robert's children because of the hair color.
Yeah.
But they had a baby in the beginning with dark hair. All of the bastards have dark hair. Maya has the dark hair. And here come 3 children with blonde roots.
What do you guys think about Gendry possibly being Cersei and Robert's baby?
I've heard that a lot. I don't know.
I go back and forth on it.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be possible, but why would they, if that is his child, then why would she turn him away? Why would she turn away her own child?
Maybe she didn't know. Maybe
because he reminded her of Robert in the book A Child Called It, which is a psychology book that you are required to read if you're studying psychology. It's about how a mother had 3 children and the father left. The oldest son looked like the father, and she kept him locked up in a basement for years and took everything out on him.
Because, like,
Yeah.
seriously, it is so difficult, like you mentioned in before, to kill is different, but to have it out of your sight is maybe something else. So maybe Cersei couldn't kill the baby, but she wanted to have nothing to do with that baby. Maybe she just gave it away without
But
killing it.
Cersei, if I may contradict you, I think Cersei loved her children. It was really her only redeeming quality. She had great love for her kids.
But she loved Jamie. She did not love Robert.
And I think
No, but
he
she would
hated
have
Robert.
loved her children though. She never, no matter where those kids came from,
But
she would
she
have
was-
loved her children. She said that she wanted, even though she had no love for Robert, she always made it a point of saying that she always would love her children no matter what. It was the only thing keeping her human.
But didn't
So I
she
don't think
drink
that
the
she was-
moon tea all the time to make sure not to have babies after that first
Yes.
baby? Maybe
But
she
my point
couldn't.
is that there are cases that are documented where a mother loves the children that look like her or remind her of her, and treats the odd duckling that doesn't look like her, especially if the divorce was contentious, like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'll
Like
read that book. It's not very big. It's called A Child Called It.
If in fact she did that, she got rid of the baby that her and Robert had,
Mm-hmm.
then now all of a sudden her and, you know what I mean, her and Catelyn are kind of the same way in that regard. Like that Catelyn would have loved nothing more than to get rid of John,
Yeah.
because he reminded her
Yeah.
of something very horrible.
Of his infidelity,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
even though it wasn't true, that's what she believed.
Yeah.
Because he didn't tell her.
He didn't tell the truth.
But I've always said, when people ask me about Cersei, and you know I joke about being attracted to Cersei and stuff, I do always say I know she's this and that, but she loves her kids. She does love her kids. So that is the only thing that makes me think she wouldn't do that. She couldn't.
And Tywin also pit his children against one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Always. And my dad was the same way. Like
And it
I
was almost like playing chess. He was doing it to make them do what he needed them to do and wanted them to do. He would pit them
and to one
together.
up one another. Just like when
Yeah.
Tyrion says in the show to Cersei, how does it feel being the least favorite child?
Yeah.
There's
a comment here.
Nixed the incest and all that. My family is most like the Lannisters. Always being pit against each other.
That's never fun, fighting for, approval or affection. That's a sick game, and people who are grown up, they should know better, but age doesn't mean wisdom. So
Yeah, that's
well,
true.
they did their best and they split up certain things, but still I noticed it.
yeah.
And if the children noticed it, I know my brother noticed it.
If I can make a comment, there's a nice comment in this comment section from Baba Husky. It says, "No highborn people of Westeros were able to marry for love. That was one advantage the small folk had. They to starve or die of plague, but could marry for love." So that is a really good one too. Go ahead, James.
No, I'm just agreeing. I was just agreeing.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. But that brings to mind the idea of what is it called? The rites of the first night or something like that. That brought to mind that thing, because my thought was, okay, if the guy thinks, okay, I can't. Yeah. So like
practice when he took over London, England, I believe after Bonnie Prince Charlie tried to have a revolution. And the point was to assimilate French with English people, just like people did the Indians.
Yeah. So that is interesting with that. Like they couldn't marry for love, so maybe they were jealous of the small folk and they wanted to take that away from them. That you know, kind of make it harder on the, you know, they
Well,
marry
the
for
English
love.
soldiers in
Yeah.
Scotland, the point was for them to not know who the father of their children were, therefore they may be English.
Yeah, that is just sick, messing with people like that.
And French people did that in the Americas. They would assimilate with Indians, and so would Spanish people.
The fuck order, right? The FUCK order that they used to have.
And Marie.
Fornication under the consent of the king. That's what fuck means, if anyone don't know what that word means.
I did
Marie,
not
you're
know
from
that.
Australia.
I didn't know that. I have
The
to look.
Aboriginal people. I know it was once looked down upon to mate with them, but nowadays it's not, is it? That's a question for Game of Theories with Marie.
And I just wanted to mention to everybody, we're getting close to 10 o'clock. We usually end it at that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to remind maybe, because it's nice. I love chatting, but it's kind of getting late. So just making sure that, you know, keeping time on the clock.
We didn't cover
Right.
that much, but it was a lot in this chapter.
I've got a comment from Marie. Vengeance.
I was going to say one last thing about the not marrying for love.
Yeah.
It does explain a lot of the infidelity, doesn't it? I mean, not that you should do it, but if you're stuck, forced marrying somebody you don't love,
you
know, it's like, oh hell, I'm gonna put up with this for the rest of my life. But you know what? I'm gonna go out here and be, you know, not necessarily have sex with other people, but have a sad relationship, you know. And that's.
And Cersei said,
I couldn't imagine living in a society like that.
Yeah.
Cersei was resentful at first, but in the end, she didn't care. She'd rather him be with his whores and drink than bother her.
Yeah, that's what she preferred. Yeah. So with that, it is sad. Again, kind of the idea that, you know, you're stuck with a person for the rest of your life or their life, and then you go on to be with somebody else who you don't want to be with. That kind of makes me understand what Lysa, because in that chapter that we didn't cover much, but she didn't want to, right? There was talk of suitors, right? And again, James reminding this, because this is going to be not this, but like in the Crown of Thrones, your topic is love, right?
Right.
So yeah, kind of like this is a good chapter.
Definitely, you're right.
Save the notes.
At the con, you're on a panel about love in Westeros.
Yes. Yep. Love Westerosi style is what it's called.
You're absolutely right, LMR.
Next year, I know what to do. I might try to be on a panel next year.
Yeah. And definitely, just a reminder for everybody in the chat, if because it's getting late, do make sure to check out James's channel. He has a link for GoFundMe. Let's make his trip better. Let's whoever can spare some cash for an extra drink.
Anything.
Just $1 for y'all. Anything.
I've had some crazy things happen.
I have a GoFundMe page as well.
Yeah. So please,
I have some outstanding student loans.
Me too. They took my taxes, James.
That's what I was getting ready to say. They took my taxes this year. I was expecting to get them last week, and they took it all. No warning. Nothing. I was like,
screwed us.
That was money I had to
bought the tickets for Christmas. The 3-day passes, $159 a piece.
Yeah,
and then
that money
I thought it'd be okay. And then I found out that Nunez Community College took a little more than half of our tax refund for student loans. And then I said, shit, I need to go get a job.
Yeah.
But I have a GoFundMe also.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't sure if you have it still, because I know you had it at some point, Jen. I wasn't able to check if you actually still had it.
If you can put
that's
the
a
link.
Good thing.
Do you still have the link?
I don't. Actually, I have no idea how to get to those links. But what we're going to do...
You have the link to my GoFundMe, babe?
We can also put it in the comments after. If somebody has it right now, please put it in here, the chat. Jen, if you want to make James a moderator so he can put in his own chats so they're visible after.
I sure will.
And then
I hope
after
you'll come on
that,
with
in the
us a bit.
comments.
You're the only guy we're going to use.
So if he's a moderator, he can later on put links in the comment section. I don't know if you can put links if you're not a moderator.
You're
I'm not
welcome
sure about that.
Okay.
So that would be great if you could, anybody who can
But I
spare.
feel like we have a good group going here. And we had a guy guest before who we let started coming on a lot. And it just didn't work out.
Well, let's leave that, in the past.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I guess we're gonna go ahead and end it, I guess, for tonight. There was one last thing that I wanted to say about this chapter, and I'm gonna go ahead and be quiet. There's a really, really good subsection in the World of Ice and Fire that talks about the veil. So if you're interested in checking, reading a little bit more about the veil, and especially, the steps up the mountain, they really go into the history of that. So go ahead and also check out A World of Ice and Fire and look for the section for the veil. And they'll go into the great history of all of it. The mountain itself, the mountain clans, the houses. Check out A World of Ice and Fire. It's a beautiful book. And they really, really go into a great section about the veil. A lot of that is mentioned.
And can I mention about you and the special stream?
Me?
Yeah.
What stream?
When you're ready to do your dangerous win. Not anytime soon because Misha's just now coming back.
Yeah,
but how we met was she did a beautiful series on Say It's in the Danger of Winds, a 3-parter, I think, or 4.
Like maybe 6, I think.
Well, we're going to put it in the description of the video link.
Yeah,
and then we're going to talk about it. Mackenzie Burns and some of my Johnsons.
Yeah, it basically it's just me taking one of the chapters from the Winds of Winter. I chose the Sansa Elaine chapter, and I'm trying to to try and navigate it and try to explain as best as I know how.
It's very good.
That's pretty much it. So yeah, check my channel out. Misha Houston. The videos are all right there.
Awesome.
Let me try to find my GoFundMe link.
And what's the next chapter we're doing next week?
I don't know. Do we want to do a next chapter, or do we want to because this was a huge chapter. So maybe my suggestion for now, again, that's just a suggestion. Let's not commit to a chapter maybe, but have an open mind maybe next week, because as I said, huge chapters, so much to talk about. We have not covered like a fourth of it here. So maybe revisiting Catelyn, because she's big, she's huge. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
So, I'm perfectly all right with that. What about you, Jennifer?
I am. And then after Marie is done with Superstream, I promised somebody we would do. They've got some good videos out on Westworld. I don't know much about Westworld, but I'm a casual watcher, and they said that they would explain.
Yeah, I need some help too, because that show was over my head. I tried to watch it.
My brain was aching in a good and bad way at the same time. Like I wanted to learn more, but like it's kind of it's great. I love it, but go ahead, James. You were saying something?
No, I just said it's a tough show to watch. You almost need to watch it, then go on YouTube, watch somebody break it down for you and tell you what you just saw.
And then watch it again and hope you comprehend it.
It's difficult. Yeah, the way I did, I don't know how you guys did it, but the way I watched it is after Kevin from Bridge 4 recommended that to me. I did not know about the show. He recommended it, and I'm kind of weird, where I basically either I do nothing or I do everything, kind of. Yeah, so I binge watched it in one sitting, 10 hours, right? I went nuts. I know. My brain was fried. It was fried. I could not. Luckily, he told me about the show where I actually had time off. Kids did not need me, and I had time for this, but my brain was in pain. Yeah.
I will bet.
and I'm processing it still. Yeah. So
Okay. Well, if everyone is okay, I guess we can go ahead and end it.
Wait, I want to find my GoFundMe
Unless
link.
you do.
yeah. So
Yeah,
before we go, I just wanted to mention that yeah, we're gonna be doing maybe Catelyn later, continue it,
Yeah,
and then for just a hint, if anybody what I noticed that I think last time I left the link to my book for free on Amazon, and I figured I have I think one more day left or 2 days left, so I figured I'm gonna do one more day. So whoever didn't get it and wants to get it for free, it's gonna be this Saturday, Cinco de Mayo. So if you're not busy partying too much, you can click on it and just save it. You don't have to read it right away. But yeah, so just letting you know, this Saturday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, it's going to be again for free for download. So just letting everybody know, whoever didn't get a chance to get it or forgot.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you, Misha.
Thank you.
Yeah, bless you.
So let's see. I guess Jen is looking for her a link. If Jen, if you don't,
just one moment.
sure. For now that we're waiting, so again, what about you guys? Like, did you take it easy with Westworld, or did you do something crazy like I did?
Definitely couldn't do it crazy like you. My head hurts after one episode.
Yeah.
So
I
you
only
took it
watched
easy.
it, from week to week when it first came out. That's all I could really handle because
And I want to like it so bad, don't you?
Yeah,
Sorry?
I do. It's a beautiful
I do.
story.
It is. It's awesome, and it's
I
filmed.
love the music.
Mm-hmm.
The score is beautiful. Yeah.
And what I really liked about Westworld is the message that is sent out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, these creatures, these were robots, but you can't just do whatever you want to do and get away with it forever. And
Right.
that's the problem with Westworld. They made up this fictional world and they gave you, a free for all pass. And that's just not the way life is. I'm not surprised at how things turned out in the end. How the robots rose up and started fighting back. I'm not surprised by that at all. Westworld, was a great show, but but the world itself just delivered a terrible message to people. You can't get away with this stuff forever. Every action has a consequence behind it, and they tried to make it seem like this world was completely and totally inconsequential. You can go around shooting people, fucking people, running around doing all kind of crazy things. You can't get away with that. You can't get away with that
forever.
at all.
That's right.
Have you seen Altered Carbon?
I watched it.
Oh my gosh. The reason, like, when I'm in chats with other creators who are doing Westworld, I keep telling them, hey, what about Altered Carbon? The reason why I keep saying it is in Altered Carbon, basically you get copies. They're called sleeves. They clone you, and your clone is called a sleeve. Or actually, they may clone you or they may upgrade you. Let's say, obviously, it's very expensive. So they're able to download your conscience, your stuff, yourself, and put it in a different body. The problem is that not everybody can afford it. And those who can afford it, they can make changes. So let's say you're born short and skinny and you want to be tall and muscular. Boom, pay extra, and you transfer what's here into the body you want. So it is actually a good thing. Yeah, so that's why I'm saying in Westworld, my thing is about the idea, what the whole thing is about. Rich people in the future, they have everything. They can have anything, everything. What don't they have? Immortality. They want to live forever. People are afraid of dying. They don't want to realize that something will end and I will not be here. How can the world go on without me here? When they have a sleeve or a host or a copy of themselves, they take this out, put it in another one. But how to make them good?
Was that movie? It was last year or two called Get Out. Was that the one? where the people were
Yes,
kidnapping black
exactly.
people. And yeah,
Yes, because
rich white people
yes,
won't live forever.
they were jealous, exactly. Plus, they thought of black people as superior to them. They were better
Yeah,
at things. They
physically
wanted to have
superior.
they wanted to
Yeah,
beat them. So old, white, snobby people were transferring what's here and
yeah.
wanted that. It's
That
yeah,
same
exactly.
altered carbon
Yeah,
concept.
exactly. They wanted to live forever in a superior body.
That's the one thing money don't buy you is more years on your life, you know?
Exactly. That's why I'm
And
thinking
Your health.
Westworld is I mean, what else if you have everything, anything? What if you don't have your health? What if you don't live forever and you want to have your health and you want to live forever? Make a good host, make it experience or be able to experience what you experience. Just you have to perfect it. That's why the DNA testing and taking the DNA of hosts. But again, I'm kind of crazy on theories, so that's my theory. That's why I keep saying altered carbon. It's amazing. Like, what makes a person a person? Is it your thoughts? If you think, therefore you are. Like, if they think that they are who they are they alive?
right.
Yeah. So some good stuff. Jen, how are you doing with that link?
I'm looking
Yeah,
for it.
Jennifer,
got
what
some
link are
food
you
in here
looking
waiting
for?
on me.
Maybe I can help you.
I'm not going to be able to find it. That's
James-
okay. I got
James,
half
were you
the
saying?
money I asked for, and that'll be good.
I think I interrupted
just
you,
said-
James. What were you saying?
Oh no, I just said, yeah, I got some food in here waiting on me.
Okay. Yeah, we gotta wrap it up if that's okay, Jen.
Yeah,
It's kind of we're kind of way past our time.
I'm in a lot of pain.
Okay, well, let's go
Sorry.
ahead and end it now. Everyone, thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and we'll be back next week to carry on with our discussion of Catelyn.
Exactly.
Amen.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a
you,
great
everybody.
time.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Jen, Misha.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for your patience, everybody in the chat. We apologize for the issues that we were having, but I think it's all worked out. It worked out fine.
Okie doke.
Thank you, everybody.
What is next week?
We're gonna
Next
carry
week,
on with Catelyn.
yes.
We're going to continue with Catelyn.
Yeah.
Yep.
You didn't finish it. Okay.
Okay, everybody take notes. Lady Wolverton, Jennifer Wolverton. Everybody calls me Jen. You can find me at Facebook, Twitter, Jennifer Wolverton 1976. And I answer all the comments on the videos. Thank you so much for joining us. The place where everybody has a place.
That's
where the only requirement is to just love these books and shows. Thanks everybody for being a guest. James, Elamar, Misha. Love y'all. Have a great week.
Good night,
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Good night.
It's still live, I think. Are we still live? It says.
Yeah.